This is Tim Bryce with my column titled, Understanding the Democrats. The more I talk with Democrats, the less I understand them. Let me give you some examples. A couple of weeks ago, I happened to run into a Democrat friend in the neighborhood walking her dog. We've known each other for quite some time and had what I considered a good relationship. On this day, we exchanged pleasantries, but the conversation turned to politics. Interestingly, she blamed President Trump for the violence and destruction in our inner cities, such as Portland, Seattle, Chicago, New York, Atlanta, etc. This caught me off guard. When I said these were cities under Democrat control and they won't ask for the president's help, she adamantly refused to accept this notion and insisted the president was at fault. I went away from this meeting scratching my head, wondering how she came to this conclusion. I could only speculate she had been listening to the mainstream media. I mentioned this episode on Facebook, and I was inundated by notes from my readers with similar stories. A reader in Burr Ridge, Illinois, wrote me about a friend she had who tried to tell her Kamala Harris was a moderate, not a liberal. She described him as a highly intelligent man who works as a psychiatrist. She was baffled by his comment and asked if he had seen her voting record. He had not, but was unswayed Senator Harris had a liberal record. Again, in hindsight, his conclusion was likely based on something said by the mainstream media. The reality, though, in 2019, she was rated the most liberal senator by independent congressional tracker GovTrack. Another Tampa Bay reader told me of a client she had who insisted the COVID-19 virus was President Trump's fault. The client contended the president wanted to make money from the vaccine, saying, quote, "Yes, but he's so greedy. He wants more and more, and that's what the news says," end quote. Evidently, this had been said to her on multiple occasions, so much so the person believed it. Another reader from Tampa found something similar. He used to joke about Trump derangement syndrome, but now believes it to be a real disorder. In the past, he had not been a fan of President Obama's policies and would provide a rational explanation with actual facts to make an argument why they were not good for the country. Whenever he asked such questions, the Democrats labeled him a racist or some other vile thing and wouldn't answer him. They did not believe he had a right to openly contest the policies of the president and tried to censure him. A reader from Holiday, Florida, claimed she had a friend in an assisted living facility in Alabama. The woman was told by a member of the staff that unless she voted Democrat, she would not be allowed to vote. If this is true, it falls under the category of voter fraud and is illegal. This demonstrates the win-at-all-costs attitude of the Democrats. Finally, I heard from a Republican organizer in Tampa who claimed people were too lazy to do their homework and would rather be lied to. They are much happier being mushroomed, she claimed. This last observation leads us into an important point. People will vote along party lines as opposed to studying the issues carefully. Most of the Democrats I personally know are older moderates. They go back to the party of the 1960s under the leadership of JFK and LBJ. They simply do not accept the fact the party has turned to the far left. They either offer blind obedience to the party or reject it and gravitate to President Trump. I met a lot of the latter during the 2016 election, where they told me the party had abandoned them. In 2020, with Trump derangement syndrome in full bloom, it must be worse. So I have found there are three types of Democrats today. The first are the naive followers with blind obedience to the party, most of which I have described above. The second are the schemers and organizers willing to pull out the stops to win the election at all costs, be it legal or not. This is represented today by the far left. And the third are those who see what the party has become and are deserting it. As an aside, in addition to my loyal readers, I also have my critics who despise my political postings. If I say black, they will predictably say white, sometimes just to be nothing more than ornery. They cannot accept the fact someone might have an opposing opinion to their own and will do just about anything to sabotage my work. As an aside, I seriously measure the success of my political columns by how much hate mail I receive. The more I get, the more successful my column is. My numbers prove it. I learned a long time ago not to engage my opponents online, and as I do not want to lower myself to their level and look bad to the public. I just wish my opponents would first read my articles before they fire back at me, but I guess that is too much to ask. It is interesting how this madness continues, that we become more polarized with each passing day. Maybe it is time to put saltpeter back into the water supply. One last thing. I've noticed the Democrats' sense of humor is diminishing. They no longer try to be amusing. Instead, it is attack politics fueled by hate. Republicans can also be serious, but I am also seeing more expressions of humor than I did in 2016. Who'd have thunk it? Friends, keep the faith. This is Tim Bryce in Palm Harbor, Florida. Follow me on the internet at timbryce.com.